Hi, folks. My name is Tony Pogasic with the Einstein Retirement Workshops. I am here a little bit early with those of you that have joined in early here. Dave Harden is going to start this workshop right at the top of the hour at 7 o'clock. So for those of you that joined us early tonight, if you could do me a huge favor, I would love to know how our sound and so forth is working. So if you could, in the chat box there to the right, just let me know that you can hear it okay and that you can hear me fine and you can see it there. It should say pre-workshop trivia. That is coming up real soon here. We're going to do that. For those of you that are on a little bit early. So if you just type in the chat box that you can hear me. Cindy, thank you. Coming in loud and clear. And if you want to tell me where you're hearing me from, that's nice as well. Lori, thank you. Okay, so you two are both coming in from Facebook. We do have people joining us tonight on YouTube. So if somebody on YouTube wants to let me know, then I'll know YouTube is working as well. We certainly don't want to do a workshop where we lost half our audience because they can't hear anything. So we'd rather take care of that right now. Cindy from New Jersey. All right. Welcome, Cindy and Lori. And again, anybody from YouTube that can hear as well, I'd love to know that. So we feel confident in moving forward at 7 o'clock when we bring Dave in. Maryland, okay, I believe that's Dave's old stomping grounds there. So I think he may have been born in Maryland. So anyways, maybe he'll bring that up in the workshop. But okay, so in the meantime, we got, hey, Pennsylvania. All right, Eileen, wonderful. And YouTube. Oh, great. Okay, so then let's get moving here. So we're going to do a little trivia as a little bonus for those of you that, you early birds that came in here. And welcome, Jennifer. Nice, from Missouri. So let's do some trivia. And you could participate. That would be great if you did. So you could just type in your chat box, ABCD, multiple choice questions. Some of it Dave will talk about in the history and so forth. But let's have a little fun here. So let's jump into a question here. And this one says, how are the first three Social Security numbers derived? Do they come from the zip code of your birth city? Of the issuing Social Security office? Are they random, or are they from the state where you were born? So A, B, C, or D. If you want to put your answer in, you want to be brave and throw an answer at us in the chat box there. There we go. Okay, Andrea's given us our first answer. Fantastic. Thank you, Andrea, for getting the ball rolling here. Anybody else wants to join in? Maggie, thank you. If you just joined in, I'm playing a little Social Security trivia. My name is Tony Pogasic, and we're getting ready for Dave to enter here at 7 o'clock. So let's take a look and see. We have, I guess you can call it a majority of saying it's the state. D. Let's find out if that is the case. Are the first three numbers from your state? No, they're actually from B, the issuing Social Security office. All right, that's all right. We got a few more. We'll get one of these right here. Okay, next question. Why have there been more than 40,000 people claiming this number as their Social Security number? Is it because A, that number was stolen and sold over 40,000 times? I don't know if that's considered the black market, but of Social Security, maybe. B, the Social Security machine got stuck on that number and gave it out to 40,000 people. C, it was a copy of a real Social Security card number included in a wallet sold at Woolworths to thousands of people. Remember the old 5 and dime store, Woolworths? I believe, I don't know if I bought one from Woolworths, but I know I got a wallet. It didn't have Social Security card in it. It had a family photo in it, and it was not my family. I'm not sure if that was a real family or not, but I do remember that. Never Social Security, though. All right, what do we think on this one? Throw your answer in the chat box there, A, B, or C. A little bit A little bit better odds now, right? There's only 3 choices instead of 4 for the last one. Any thoughts on this? It was stolen. Lori's going with C. All right, we have an answer on the board. Thank you, Cindy, for jumping in there. Okay, we need a tiebreaker, though. We got a C and an A. I will give you a hint. It is C or A. Which one? Somebody want to break that tie? You got to guess C or A to do it for us here, and give us a chance to get on the winning track here. It was either stolen 40,000 times or it was in a Woolworths wallet. And our tiebreaker, Will, is going to break it with C. Okay, let's see if Will did the job for us here. Correct answer was C. Thank you. All right, we did. Okay, we came out on the winning side of this one. Very nice. All right, I think we're ready to build some momentum now. Okay, how about this? Under what circumstance can you get a new Social Security number issued to you? A, because of religious issues with certain numbers, maybe too many sixes in there. B, you are experiencing issues with being a victim of identity theft. C, your number enables people to harass or endanger your life. Or D, all of the above. Okay, so if you're going to choose D, it's got to work for all 3 of them. If you find one that doesn't work, you can rule out D. Remember all those rules like in high school, how you answer these all of the above type questions. What do we got? Lori's going D. We got D. D's coming at us. Okay. All right. I would say that's a majority. Let's take a look and see if we're on this one. It was D. We have some really good test takers in here, I think is really what the case is. Or you really do know your Social Security. It's one of the two. Okay. Let's take a look here. We got another question. How about this one? What year was the first Social Security benefit paid? Was it 1936, 1937, or 1940? Look at the amounts that it could be. $28 payout, $19, or $22. A, B, or C? Anybody remember anybody around that time getting grandparents, something like that, getting a Social Security benefit then? We've got a couple of B's coming in, 1937. I think this is a tough one because the choices are so close together, 36, 37, or 1940. Oh my goodness, look at all the C's coming in. Okay, I think we have that's a pretty good majority there. Let's see if it was C. It was C, 1940. Oh, nice. Okay, it looked like 37 was going to be the choice. We ended up with a nice comeback there. All right, this is a perfect way to step off of our trivia here because it is the top of the hour, and we did so well on our test. You are in for a treat. Those of you that joined up with us tonight, Dave Harden is going to give you so much information. And I'm glad our group was good test takers because that tells me you guys are awake and alert and sharp tonight, and you're going to need to be. You cannot snooze through this one because there's so much information that will be so beneficial to you. You'll be so glad that you joined in. So Dave's got great stuff to tell you, some good stories as well. Just a fantastic person to listen to. So if you haven't yet, grab something to get comfortable with, a drink, whatever that might be, or coffee if you need to, a notebook if you need that. It's 7:00 now, so I'm going to let Dave know that we are done here and bring him in. And I think we see him. Dave, are you there?
I'm here, Tony. How are you?
Doing great, thank you. We got a good warmed up crowd for you here, Dave. You're gonna have to be on your toes because they're sharp.
They look particularly smart tonight.
I know. I didn't ask where anybody was from though, so I didn't get to find that out. I always love to know that. I know you do too. So okay, I'll leave it to you, Dave.
Thanks, Tony. So welcome, folks. My name is Dave Harden. I'll be your host for the Einstein Retirement Workshop's Social Security Filing Strategies Workshop tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. We have, as always, we have people joining at the last minute. So let me just do a little bit of housekeeping and then we'll get started. first off, people always ask, how long does this take? This is roughly an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and 20 minutes. And then we always do a Q&A, a question and answer period at the end. So I'll ask your help in this. When we start that, we'll just use your questions. So if you've got questions, use the chat feature that you've been using on Trivia already. Just type in your question. And you don't need to wait until the end of the workshop tonight to type it in. If you got a question now, or something that I say triggers a question about a specific topic that you'd like answered tonight, type it in when that happens. That way, our tech team will put that together and have it for us so we can get started with the questions as soon as we end the workshop, so we just get through all of them. We always try to answer everybody's question. And people stick around. It's some people tell us it's the best part of this. I hope that's not true, but if it is, we're happy that we do something that people like. So look, if you haven't already, grab a drink, hot or cold. Probably not a good time to get an alcoholic beverage or an adult beverage because you may want to pay attention more than that. But great time. Grab some note paper or pen if you want to. There'll definitely be some things that you'll want to take notes of, my guess. Let's get started. So again, my name is Dave Harden. I'm a registered financial consultant, an RFC, that's a designation for retirement planning purposes. I also carry the NSSA certification. That is the only college accredited designation for Social Security in the country. We're pretty proud of that, but I'm actually a little embarrassed for our industry. There are less than 2,000 people that have that, about 1,600 people that have that nationally. About 1 million advisors call themselves retirement planners. I don't know how you do that if you don't understand Social Security and taxes. They're a must to be a part of this. And so we look for this. We think it's an important thing. Everybody in our firm has it because we believe it's just an important part of the process. That being said, I also own a registered investment advisory firm, an RIA. I am an IAR, an advisor, an investment advisor representative, even though I own the firm. I carry a Series 65 license. We're headquartered in Michigan. We have offices in a couple other places in the country. We do business in about 42 states, 1,103 client accounts across the nation. Look, I just want you to understand this is not what we're going to talk about tonight. I'm not here to sell you investments. Not going to do that. We're here to talk about Social Security. We're going to dig into it and dig deep. But it's important to know I'm a fiduciary advisor. I carry that Series 65 license, and I act as a fiduciary. That license gives me the ability to call myself and put myself out as an investment advisor, somebody who is a fiduciary in that regard. In addition to that, I'll just tell you my own, this is really the reason I can talk about Social Security. But let me tell you why I do it. Maybe that's more important. I'll tell you a brief story about my grandfather. My grandfather was born in 1892 in Austria, and his mother was a maid. His father was not a part of his household, and he grew up watching his mother serve a family that was quite wealthy, and they lived in poverty. And he dreamed about living in a society where he could determine his value by his worth, what he could provide and what he could do with his hands or his brain. And he was in a country, in a society that really was restricted for him. And so he dreamed of coming to America. Nobody in his family had ever done that. But at the ripe old age of 15, he immigrated. He left Austria and wound up in England, worked there. He understood he had to learn the language, mastered English. By the time I knew my grandfather, he knew 4 languages fluently. He was a smart guy, but he understood that he needed some money. He worked there long enough, and then finally, eventually, catched a freighter and wound up in Canada, which is where he could buy a ticket to, and worked there, established himself enough that one day He said, "Today's the day." And he crossed the border from Ontario into New York State. And within a few hundred yards, he saw men riding on horseback around along the border. And he said, "Well, this is my chance." He went up to them and raised his hand and says, "I want to be an American citizen." And they promptly arrested him. They took him to a magistrate who gave him a choice. He said, "I can try you, I can convict you, I can throw you in jail, we can deport you, and you'll never be allowed back in the United States. Or you can join the army. You can earn your citizenship that way." And that's exactly what he did. That was the very beginning of World War One. He ended up in about less than a few months, right in the trenches of France, fighting the Germans from which he had come. And his language skills got him promoted. And when the war was over, he had earned his citizenship. Married my grandmother, fell in love with her in a very brief romance, and they were married from that day after World War One till the day that she died in 1963, 2 days before President Kennedy was shot and assassinated. She was a nurse. By that time, my grandfather was retired, and she was the chief breadwinner for his family. But she got in a hospital, a late night shift, running to a room to help a patient that was having a heart attack. And she got hit by a cart going the other way, and it caused a terrible bruise in her leg. Turned out to be a blood clot, traveled to her heart. She had a massive heart attack and died at the ripe old age of 76. It was a devastating thing. In fact, I lived in Northern Virginia with my mother and father at the time. And we traveled up to New York to come to the funeral. And I remember opening the door to my grandparents' house that I heard my grandmother's voice so often say, "David, David, so good to see you." She wasn't there. All I could hear was my grandfather in his bedroom, laying on his bed and just unconsolably weeping so loud that the whole house was uncomfortable. He was so shaken by this that the next day at the funeral, two men, it was an outside graveside service. The two men had to prop him up. His knees would not lock. They just buckled on him. And my mother, seeing this, being an only child, devoted to her mother and father, knew that in Austria, where my grandfather grew up, in his background, there was no Social Security, there was no pension for him. If you got old and you couldn't support yourself, your safety net was your family. They took you in. And she felt compelled, as their only daughter, to help him out and to do that. And so within a few weeks, my grandfather had moved from New York to Virginia to live with my parents and my sister and I. And it was a wonderful thing. My sister and I were so excited. We loved him. But for our family, it was devastating. My father and my grandfather were like oil and water. They just didn't see anything uh, in the same way, and they fought constantly. And within a few weeks, my father had had enough. Within a few months, out of our lives, and within a year or so, out of our lives altogether for the rest of our lives, my grandfather became the man in my life. In fact, my mother remarried a few years later, well, several years later, and she insisted when they bought a house that my stepfather bought a house with a makeshift apartment in the basement so that my grandfather could still live with us. And he did until the day he died. Um, but I remember in that apartment going and visiting him and spending hours and hours, sometimes with my sister, sometimes by myself. And he took such an interest in me, and he was so concerned because he was financially not in a very good position, but he wanted me to know and learn from his mistakes. And we talked about money all the time. Then we did other stuff. We played cards, and he taught me pinochle and spades and gin rummy, and he loved to do that. But he really wanted to make an impression on me. And we had countless conversations about money, and he encouraged me to read books, and then he drilled me on them and asked me about them. And it was those conversations. In fact, I tie those conversations to the life I've had. As soon as I finished school, the first job I had is doing exactly what I'm doing now, helping people plan their retirements and help them with money. And I owe that all to this wonderful man who took this incredible interest to make sure that I didn't make those mistakes. And that's why I feel like I owe this back. It's those conversations, those care and concern for me that, and the realization over the years of doing this of how few people really understand Social Security, really understand the momentous decisions that they have in front of them, and how often mistakes are made that we do this as a result. So enough about me. I appreciate your tolerance and your understanding. Let's get in and just start with the workshop. Um, Look, why is Social Security such a hot topic? Look, every single day, 10,000 of us, 10,000 baby boomers are turning 65. It's over 70,000 a week, 280,000 a month. Last year, 3.64 million of us. And that's going to continue for about the next 13 years. It's a huge deal. Maybe more importantly, 65% of retired middle income Americans derive more than half of their retirement income from Social Security. It's a huge part of our financial lives when we retire. And since 1985, 84,000 pensions have been lost or eliminated. What do I mean? I don't mean 84,000 people lost their pensions. That would be pretty bad. I mean 84,000 corporations. Some of those individual corporations had hundreds of thousands of employees. There are millions of people that used to get a pension but no longer do. And it's changed how important Social Security is. And then maybe the scariest of all, 46.1% of Americans currently pass away with less than enough money to fund their own funeral in most cases. Now, think about that. That's almost half of Americans. And you might be saying, well, there's poor people in America, and there are, but there aren't half of us. The poverty line says there's about 14%, and it's pretty concentrated in certain areas. This includes lots of people in middle America, people just like you and me, who started their retirements with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in things like 401ks and IRAs, but ended up literally dead broke. And if that doesn't send a chill down your spine, it should. And really, what it should do is make you incredibly curious about how in the world does that happen and how do I make sure I avoid it? Look, the two sweetest words in retirement planning are lifetime income. Maybe I should amend that, guaranteed lifetime income. And that's exactly what Social Security is. It's a guaranteed annuity, a government guaranteed annuity that you cannot outlive. It will pay you until you breathe your last breath. And there are documented cases where couples received more than $2 million in lifetime benefits. Now, you might be thinking that's a lot of money, but trust me, you have paid dearly for this benefit. You may not realize how much money you've actually paid, but you've paid a lot, a ton. And you deserve to get every dollar of benefit back. So, look, some questions that we ask. Do you insure your home? If you own a home, do you insure it? Well, if you have a mortgage, you have no choice. But you really have no choice anyway. You can't afford to lose an asset like that. Do you insure your car? In most states, you don't have a choice. You have to. How about your health? Well, even if you didn't have health insurance, if you're turning 65 and you're thinking about Social Security, you have Medicare, which is a absolute insurance policy, a health insurance policy. It's in most cases, most people would agree, it's a really good one. Unless you make some bad options, it's a really good one. Do you insure your retirement? If you're wondering about that, the answer is you have. Social Security is a retirement insurance policy. No, it's not 100% retirement insurance policy. It's a partial retirement insurance policy. All right. So, look, what's the risk of outliving your income? And why do we need to concern ourselves with that? Look, this is census data. The census says if you're a single male age 65, you have a 50% chance you're living to 85. Coin flip. You got a 25% chance you're living to 92. Now, there's a whole lot of, if you're a man and you're on here, my guess is you're going, no, not me. I've heard a lot of people over my life say, no, I don't want to live that long. I don't want to. My wife is one of those people. Sure, I don't want to live to be 100. But look, you don't want to live to be 90? Talk to me when you're 89, because that changes dramatically. We are programmed to love life. By the way, if you're a single female, age 65, 50% chance you're living to 88, 25% chance you're living to 94. And then if you're a couple, if you're engaged with somebody that cares about you, that loves you, that is concerned about you and your health, that is like a couple months ago, my wife saw a mole on my back that she thought didn't look right, and she insisted I go to the dermatologist. Now, important for me, my sister died of melanoma. So we're on high alert about stuff like that. But turns out it was nothing. But that concern often pays off in a longer lifespan. And if you're a couple that is concerned about one another, if you're the male, you got a 50% chance. A coin flip, you're living to 92. You got a 50% chance, if you're a female, of living to 97. You cannot assume you're going to die early. And because of that, you've got to plan your money accordingly. This is Maria Morea. She is the oldest living person in the world. She is currently, well, I think she's 116. She's going to be 117 in April. She just took the place a year and a half ago of Connie Tanaka, that was 119 years old. And Connie took the place of a lady in Jamaica that was 122 years old. We are living longer and longer. And you might say, well, yeah, these are exceptions, Dave. Listen, if you look, I pay a little bit of attention to this. 15 years ago, 10 years ago, if you'd have looked at the chart, the list of the oldest 100 people in the world, I think there were a couple of Americans on it. If you look at it today, it's chunk full. Our parents are living longer and longer and longer than we ever thought they could. And guess who's going to come right behind them? You've got to be prepared for this. All right, here's our focus today. We're going to talk about benefit basics, how they actually work, how they're structured, strategies for married couples, for divorced individuals, options for them, options for widows and widowers. Look, if you're single and you're saying, wait a minute, what about me? First off, Social Security is created for you. It is a single person program. These are the one-offs. But look, if you're worried, is there anything for me? We're going to have some stuff for you. But see that word taxes? Boy, have you got to pay attention here. Now, I don't mean if you're a married couple or a divorced individual or widower, you don't need to pay attention about taxes. You all do. But boy, do single people get hit a little harder than you might realize. And you've got to be prepared for this. And then, why is it important to coordinate benefits? All right. Basics of Social Security. How do you qualify? You had to work first at a job where you actually were covered by Social Security. You paid into Social Security. If you were an employee, your employer matched that paying into it. And if you were single, you already know that you paid. If you were a self-employed person, you already know you paid for it all with no discount. They take the highest 35 years of earned wages to calculate your Social Security benefit. Now, notice I said the highest, not the first 35 years you worked, not the last 35 years, not the middle, the highest individual years cumulatively built up to give you a total amount, the highest 35 that you ever earned. Now, it's also not the, people say, well, that'll be the last 35. Not necessarily. They're prorated. So if you're thinking, hey, I might like to work another year because I'm making more money now than I did, say, in the 80s. Well, if you made $30,000 in 1982, you got to make about $130,000 to beat that year after it's structured and after we add we take cost of living into consideration to figure out what its value is today. So keep that in mind. It's also important that you pay attention to the total 35, because if, for instance, you work 34 years, you have 34 years of history, they add that all up. Well, how do they come to the number? Well, they still divide by 35 years. So if you work 34 years, they're going to divide by 35. It's like they added a zero and then divide by 35. If you add 30 years, they're going to add 5 zeros and still divide by 35. That's why that extra filling up of those last years to make sure you have at least 35 is really, really important. This is one of the reasons we suggest that you look at your statement, your Social Security statement. It will tell you, there's a page on it that will actually detail out every single year you've worked since you started working. For me, that's 14 years old working at Woolworths. At I think it was $1.05 an hour washing dishes behind the counter, the lunch counter. Not a fun job, but it was the first job I ever had. And they didn't give you a check; they give you actual dollars in an envelope with the calculation of what you had on the back side of it. It was different time, so. And I think some of those checks I could buy a Starbucks coffee with today, and not much else. Anyway, okay, so important that you pay attention to that. You need to know if there's a missing number, you got to deal with that. If there's a zero where there should be an actual income, you got to deal with that. It could make a huge difference in how much you get. Now, you get one credit for every $1,730 of earnings in a quarter. A quarter is January, February, March, April, May, June, and so on. You can earn only up to 4 credits per year. You could earn $1 bazillion. They're not going to give you more credits. You can only earn 4. And you need 40 credits or 10 full years, calendar years, not calendar years, but total years of quarters to be able to qualify for a retirement benefit. Disability benefits need half of that, 20 quarters, 5 full years of work history. But we're not going to be talking about disability tonight. It's just Social Security tonight. So once you've established that 40 credits, you've earned a retirement benefit, at least the minimum retirement benefit. Are there any ways that you can lose that? Well, or exclusions or reductions? The answer is unfortunately yes. So, look, if you were, for instance, a government worker, you worked for the federal government and you earned a wonderful pension. But after you earned the pension, let's say you put in 25 years, you retired. You retired early. You didn't need to work more to get more. You didn't want to work more. You were tired of the job. You took a year off, you celebrated, and then you figured, hey, maybe I should get a regular job. And you earned your 10 years, your 40 credits, and now you've qualified for both your government pension and a Social Security benefit. But wait, there's these two little things, the WP and the GPO, that may affect you. So if that scenario applied to you, the WEP would be applied. That's the windfall elimination provision. And that windfall elimination provision would say, hey, because you don't have a minimum number of years, not the minimum number that qualifies you, but you don't have 30 years of Social Security, we're going to reduce maybe substantially the amount of Social Security. We won't touch your pension, but we're going to reduce the amount of Social Security you get because you're getting a government pension and a government-funded Social Security program. Now, it doesn't seem very fair. In fact, there's lots of, in the last 10 years, there's probably been 7 proposals to eliminate this, but it never gets done. So you've got to pay attention to this. Now, if you're let's say you're in that scenario, but you work 30 years or 35 years. Excuse me, I'm going to blow my nose for a second. It is itching like crazy tonight. That always happens. You work for the federal government. Let's say you put 35 years in. You have a wonderful pension and you're married, but your spouse, maybe they worked for a few years, then they stayed home and raised some kids, and then they went back to work. They've got their 10 years in. Maybe they have 20 years in, but they don't have 30 or 35. They qualify for at least the minimum Social Security. They may qualify for more than that. But the GPO is going to click in. Maybe during this period of time, you thought, well, if something happens to me, I can imagine this happening. I've heard clients say this. If something happens to me, my wife will have my government pension and her Social Security. She's going to be fine. But here's the problem. The GPO, we call it the grumpy partner offset, but it's the government pension offset. It won't affect the pension. She would still inherit that pension. But her own Social Security could be reduced drastically, if not even eliminated totally. This happens way more than people realize. Here's the thing. Both of these circumstances, it is mitigatable if you know ahead of time. Working an extra year or two, sometimes 5 years, but knowing that as soon as you can and dealing with it can dramatically affect the outcome in your favor. But if you go ahead and file without knowing this, you do that in peril. Okay, so if you worked in the military, you served, thank you for your service. And good to know, unless your service dates back to July 1957, your military service does not affect your Social Security anymore. You're fine. Railroad employees with at least 10 years have earned a pension. Now, why is this on this list? Because the railroad is, I won't want to say they're broke. I said that a few weeks ago, and somebody called up and said, hey, I work for the railroad. They're not broke. Look, I don't want to get into an argument with you. They're not financially, fiscally in great shape. And there is a lot of supplementation by the government. The government supplements the railroad system. Now it has to. It's the biggest part of it's a huge part of our infrastructure as a country, and it's necessary. So it's a part of that. But look, Amtrak has if you work for Amtrak, you get a pension. But the pension's not paid by Amtrak, it's paid by the government. And because it's a government pension, the GPO and the WEP apply to its employees just the way they would if you worked for the Department of Homeland Security or the Department of Energy. It doesn't matter. Now, some state and local governments, if you worked for a state, a city, a county, any municipality, you worked for a school district that opted out of Social Security in favor of their own pension, and they used that money to help fund their own pension instead of Social Security, and you worked there, say you were a teacher and you worked for 25 years and you retired with a pension, but then you worked and you earned your 10 years of Social Security, your 40 quarters, and you've got a Social Security benefit, understand that this GPO and this WP apply to you as well. If that comes as a shock, I'm sorry, but you really need to understand this and break it down before you file for your Social Security. You can mitigate these things, but you need to know ahead of time. And you should be prepared either way. So how does Social Security work? The worker, you or me, contributes 6.2% of our pay up to a maximum of 100 this year, 168,600. That's gone up every year. Oh, geez, since the 80s, maybe the 70s. It's gone up and up and up, and it's continuing to go up. It will eventually, I think, in the 2055 range, hit $1 million. But right now, it's 168,600. I think in the next 5 or 6 years, it'll be over 200. Your employer matches that 6.2% for a total of 12.4%. Understand that 12.4% of every dollar you've ever earned has been put into your Social Security account. It's gone into the system on your behalf. Think about that. Many of you have worked 30, 40 years, some of you longer than that. Every single dollar. And then think about that the dollar was worth, $30,000 in Social Security pay was worth $30,000 in 1982 is worth $130,000 today. Think about how much that money is worth. It's a huge amount. That's all been done on your behalf. Now, Social Security it's basically a pay-as-you-go system. Today's contributions cover today's benefits. What do I mean by that? Well, the money that we put in our paychecks today and our employer match next month goes out to recipients. It's a pay-as-you-go system. It's been that way since its inception. It was set up, little point of trivia, who wrote the Social Security bill? The same guy that signed it, President Roosevelt. It's the only bill, as far as I know, that was actually written and signed by the same person. He drafted the entire bill and it was accepted as written. Why did he draft it? He wanted control of how it was written. And he wanted to make sure specifically this, because the proposals at the time were, well, we can't do this. We got to put the money in, and then, when you retire, you can get it. The problem is that it was in the middle of the Great Depression in 1935, and seniors were getting kicked in the butt. It was bad for them. And so he wanted to give them money right away. In fact, it wasn't called Social Security then. It was the old person's pension and something act. I can't remember exactly right now. But so what happened is they couldn't pay immediately. There wasn't enough funds to pay everybody. So in 1940, they built up enough funds that they could sustain payments, and they started paying everybody immediately. And that's been the way it is. Now, think about that, and it'll start to make you wonder about something else. So if those dollars paid those generations, our grandparents or our great-grandparents' generation was paid by our grandparents, our grandparents paid by our parents paid by us, every one of those generations, bigger, bigger, bigger than the next. Here's the question. 77 million baby boomers. We sort of are breaking the system. Anybody know how many millennials there are? 81 million. There's more of them, but not by much. In some cases in the last 30 years, it's been a 5 to 7 to 1 ratio, people paying in to people receiving. That is about to be turned on its head, and that makes you wonder about solvency. Is this a solvent system? Is it going to be there for us? And it's a valid question, but I want to talk about this because there's some really bad news being put to you. Look, 2010's first year since 1983 that Social Security was what's called in the red. There's not enough projected funds to meet its obligations throughout. 83 was a big year for baby boomers. I'm assuming most of you are baby boomers. So if you're a baby boomer in 1983, you got what I call the letter. You got it because I got it. Everybody got it. Do you remember it? It was the letter from Social Security Administration. It was the letter that told you, when you opened it up, that since its inception in 1935, Social Security has been about retirement at 65. But boy, if you're born after 1943, that's no longer the case. It's going to be 66. And if you're born after 1954, it's going to be 66 in some months until at 1960, it's 67. Excuse me. Do you remember the letter? I do. Do you remember? I remember getting that letter. I remember going to work the next day. And I was probably at the water cooler, and I probably brought it up because I was a little frosted by it. And I said something like, "Jeez, By the time I retire, this is going to be 70 if they're doing this. And you probably heard the same thing I heard for the first time. Wouldn't be surprised if it was the first time. You've probably heard it dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of times since then. Who cares? Social Security is not going to be around when you retire. Do you remember that? Well, guess what? They're wrong. It is here. In fact, right now, it's fully funded to 2035. And there's enough to pay 75 cents on the dollar forever from ongoing receipts. So how do they fund the other 25%? That's really the question. How do we get the other 25%? And look, this is important that you understand because you are getting racked. There has been for the last 20, 25 years, there has been an active campaign, a propaganda campaign to convince you that Social Security is not solvent and it's never going to be. And it's just bull. Now, let me tell you about, because I want you to pay attention. That 1983 date is really important for a couple of reasons to baby boomers. One is what I just explained to you. The other I'll talk about in a few minutes. But it's also very important from a solvency standpoint. Look, 4 basic proposals to fix this. One is increase the minimum retirement age. It's currently 62. Switch it to 64, 65. That makes a big difference. 39% of people are still taking benefits at 62, even though in many cases it's not in their best interest. And one of the reasons that I get upset about this is that propaganda campaign convinces people that it's not solvent, so I've got to get something before they go out of business, which is just not going to happen. The other one, instead of 66 or 67, raise the full retirement age to 70 or 72. The other one is the simplest one, the one that absolutely everybody agrees fixes the problem. Raise the payroll tax. There was a study done 3 or 4, maybe 4.5 years ago, raising the payroll tax a half a point to the employer, half a point to the employee, fixed it for the next 70 years. And then the other one is reduced benefits. Here's the problem with that. When they wrote this law in 1983 that changed the retirement age, there was a senator who just happened to be the head of the majority party at the time. His name was Trent Lott. And he just was upset about this process about, look, you cannot do this to people when they're close to retirement. So in that law, there was a fairness codicil that said, look, you can change stuff, but you cannot change the date somebody can get their benefit, their age of which they can get it, the amount of that benefit, or how that benefit is derived after they reach the age of 55. My guess is every single one of you are older than 55. Can they change it? Yeah, for your kids, for your grandkids, because they have time to prepare. They can't change it for you. So, Dave, what are they going to do if they don't have the money? Well, I don't know. They came up with eventually $1.5 trillion for COVID out of the blue, and they just added it to the debt. This is an obligation of the full faith and credit of the United States government, where they actually took the money from you. You think they've got the guts not to pay you? I don't know. I don't think so. I think the reaction would be crazy if that happened. And first off, they can't. The law says they can't. But look, there's plenty of people that will tell you they will. And all this talk about solvency, these Wall Street experts that bash Social Security, it really upsets me. If you pay attention to this, you've got to, there's this line from Shakespeare from about 500 years ago. It says, methinks they does protest too much. They have a foot in the game, and they're trying to convince you that you need to do what they think is best for you, when it's all about benefiting them. Think about this. About 20 years ago, almost to the day, there was this huge push to privatize Social Security. I mean, there were bills in Congress. They were going to pass these bills, and they just couldn't get it done. And Wall Street was behind this in absolute bandwagon style. But I want you to understand privatization of Social Security is a sacred trust from the US government that you've paid into for your entire working lifetime. And here's the deal. It wouldn't, if Wall Street got their hands on that money, it wouldn't make their week, their month, their year, their decade. It would make their century. Trillions and trillions of dollars in the trust fund that would simply be handed to them to attack it with fees. And Wall Street, look, they don't care if your money goes up or your money goes down. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying they don't want your money to go up. They do, because the more money you have, the more money they can charge you fees. And look, I understand. Look, I'm a registered investment advisory. I own a firm. We charge fees. I get it. But here's the thing. You cannot do this and not understand that they want that. This is about guarantees. Here's the thing that Social Security does. It offers you a lifetime guaranteed income. That's something that Wall Street cannot do. They won't do. They'll offer you better opportunity. Oh, you can make more. You can also lose it all. They cannot, they will not ever match that. And if you doubt me, ask your money advisor, your money manager, what kind of guarantees can he offer you for income for the rest of your life that are still active in the market? This is something, look, this is a big deal. You, you, I don't know if you feel like you've been led this way, but I've talked to people over and over and over. I get people sometimes that sit down with me and they are scared to death about Social Security. They stay awake at night worrying about it. This is just not something you have to worry about. They have a government trust obligation to fill that. It's incredibly important. All right. So how are your benefits determined? Look, at your full retirement age, that's either 66 or 67, depending on what year you were born. You get your FRA, your full retirement benefit, 100% of it. If you take it early, say it's 62, you get less. You get 75% of that benefit. If you delay it, you get these DRCs, delayed retirement credits. They're not compounded, but they're stacked. 8%, 8%, 8%, 8%. If you delay to 70, you get 132% of the benefit. The difference between filing at 62 and filing at 70 is 177% more benefit. It's a huge deal. You can't ignore that. You got to pay attention to it. Look, 3 distinct benefits. Your own benefit. That's the one that you earned by your work, by the sweat of your brow. A spousal benefit. That's the benefit that you derive, that your spouse derives from your work history, not theirs. And then a widower survivor benefit. That's the benefit to the surviving spouse of a deceased worker, based on the deceased worker's contributions, not the surviving spouse. All right. Oop, there it is. Look, in 2015, a couple things changed. We used to sit down with people and coach them on how to file and do some things to loop in and get extra benefits. Most of that has been taken away. But I got to tell you about this change because it affected you in a different way. It changed people who are married or divorced with 3 specific sets of rules. If you're single or widowed, this does not affect you. Group 1, I'm not going to talk about Group 1 or Group 2. Group 1, these are people born prior to May 1st, 1950. You're already past 70. If you haven't filed, you should. And again, Group 2 is between May 1st, 1950 and January 2nd, 54. You turned 70 less than 2 months ago. You should still file. If you haven't, you should do it immediately. And then group 3, this is the group that I'm guessing most of you are in, and the one that we've got to talk about. This is if you're born after January 2nd, 1954. Okay. For this group, well, let me tell you what the other groups could have done that you can't do. We would have coached you, if you were in the earlier group, to file at 62. Well, Dave, you're just talking about maybe that's not a good idea. Yeah, it isn't. But we're going to tell you to suspend the benefit as soon as you file. Why would I do that? Because look, if I filed my benefit 6 years ago, or 7 years ago, I filed my benefit, and then I absolutely start suspending it immediately, that would allow my spouse to come in and file what's called a restricted application for only the spousal benefit. That means my benefit never stopped, never took it. It's growing all the way to full retirement age. Then I'm getting those DRCs, delayed retirement credits, all the way to 70. My spouse, her benefit is growing all the way to full retirement age, and she was getting those delayed retirement credits all the way to 70, but she's collecting half of my benefit in the meantime. That's a lot of extra money. Why wouldn't I do that? Well, if you're in this group, they've taken it away. But that's not why I'm bringing this up. Why I'm bringing this up is because they've also added this thing called deemed filing. And deemed filing is why I've got to talk about this. Deemed filing means that if you go in to file your benefit and you say, hey, I'd like my spousal benefit, I'd like this benefit, I'd like this option. They don't hear any of that anymore. They just fill out the paperwork. They go to the computer screen. They determine what the largest benefit you can get on the day that you file is. And then that's the one that you get. And you say, well, Dave, they're giving me the largest benefit. Yeah, but that might not be the best way to file. Worse, deemed filing means once you do it, you're done. All your options are gone. You have no way to undo it. For this reason, if you're in this group, you need to pay attention to timing. It matters. And you really need to know what's the best option for you before you file. All right, married couples. If you're a married couple, you want a spousal benefit, you must be married right now at least for 1 full year. The primary worker must have filed. Generally, you must not qualify for a benefit on your own that is equal to or greater than 1/2 of your primary worker's PIA, primary insurance amount. That's the amount that determines your full retirement benefit. And then you get up to 50% of your spouse's PIA, not the benefit amount exactly, it's the PIA. It's close, though, but it's going to be a few dollars off. So let's do a quick example. John's primary insurance amount at full retirement is $2,000. Jane would be eligible for 1/2 at her full retirement age. She'd get $1,000. It's pretty simple, right? Let's see if we can make it a little more complicated. Okay. At 66 or 67, you're getting your full retirement age benefit, right? If you file early as a single person, you get at 62, 75% of that benefit. But if you're a spouse filing early, you get less, 70% at 62. So let's go back to that example. John's primary insurance amount, $2,000. Jane at full retirement age gets $1,000, 50%. But at 62, she'd get 70% of that $1,000. She'd get $700. And then maybe more importantly, if you file late, if you delay, you get these stacking wonderful DRCs, 8%, 8%, 8%, 8%, all the way to 70, where you collect 132% of your benefit. If you delay a spousal benefit, you get nada, nothing. There is zero benefit to delay a spousal benefit past your full retirement age. What does that mean? You're throwing money away. It's worse. If you delay your spousal benefit, once you hit full retirement age, you're not just throwing money away, you can't recover any of it. Like if I make a mistake on my own benefit, I can file, I can tell the Social Security Department, hey, I'd like to file 6 months ago, and just they'll send you a lump sum and then start your benefits after that. Sometimes I can file as late as much as a year back. A spousal benefit, I can't do any of that. I cannot predate my benefit. I can only take it from this point forward. So if I didn't file and I missed it, I've just thrown money away. I have no way of recovering that. Okay, survivor benefits. At the death of the first spouse, the surviving spouse can receive the maximum of either his or her own benefit. So obviously, you take your benefit, right? You can get the benefit of the deceased, or 82.5% of the PIA of the deceased if the deceased filed early. Here's why we talk about this. 39% of people still filing at 62. Look, if you did that and you're the chief breadwinner and you then pass away, let's say you pass away at 64, 65, your spouse then inherits, if you had the chief breadwinner, you're the larger benefit, they now get your benefit, their benefit disappears. Well, if you filed early, you may have just shortchanged them terribly. The government has seized this because of the circumstances around so many people in the last 15 years filing early. They are absolutely trying to help people out. So they jumped this up from 75% to 82.5%. Now, some people are saying that's not very much, and it's not, but it's better than nothing. Why not just bump it to 100%? They don't want to encourage this behavior. So you got to pay attention to this. All right, most common mistakes that we see: higher wage earner files early and shortchange the survivor benefit. Just what I was talking about. Both delay, past full retirement age, nobody claims a spousal benefit. Both of these happen way too often. Way too often. All right, divorced individuals. To receive a divorced spouse benefit, you must have been married for 10 years in a row to the same person. All right. So no stopsies and starties, no 2 years, then 2 years off, then 8 years does not equal a 10-year marriage. It must be 10 years in a row. The only exception to this is if the final divorce and the remarriage happen in the same calendar year, they may consider that, a continuation of the same marriage. But that's it. You cannot currently be married. If you're a divorced spouse and you remarry, you no longer have divorced spouse benefits. You now have a current spouse, and any benefits, even if they don't qualify for benefits now because they're too young, they're what you have. There's no way to retrieve the others. The same benefit and reduction, same benefit amounts and reductions apply for early claiming as they do for regular spousal benefits. What do I mean? Well, look, there's no difference. There is zero difference between a divorced spouse benefit and a regular spousal benefit, with one tiny exception. It's this one that's listed here, independently entitled after 2 years. So look, I told you before, if my wife, I've been married 47 years, if she wants to get a spousal benefit from me, she can't. I haven't filed yet. She retired early. She has been on Social Security since 62. Her Social Security is not very much. She would get a lot more if I filed and she got it, but I'm waiting till 70. It's part of my Social Security plan. It's part of my retirement plan. So because of that, that's just the way it is. But this is the only exception between divorced spouse and regular spouse benefits. If we were divorced for at least 2 years, she could immediately get my benefit even though I haven't filed. When I say my benefit, she could file for a divorced spouse benefit even though I haven't filed yet. That's the only difference between the two. All right, Bipartisan Budget Act of 2015 affected divorced individuals as well. Not going to talk about born before 1950 or between 50 and 54. I am going to talk about being born after January 2nd, 1954. Again, most of you on this call, the restricted application has been taken away. That thing that we could have done if you were married is not available here either. But if you are, there we go. Oops. Sometimes, if you're older than your ex, you're not currently married, you can claim your own benefit as early as 62 and then switch to a larger divorce spouse benefit as your ex-spouse reaches full retirement age. This can be done as often as you have qualifying multiple ex-spouse marriages. So ex 10-year marriages, I don't know how many you could have. I mean, maybe you could have 2 or 3 of those. I don't know if you could have 4. Maybe you could have 4. It's possible, I guess. But the government is so generous here. They'll also let you pick in what order that you would take them. You could take the lowest income spouse first, waiting for the larger income spouse to get more money before it maxes out. All can be done. All right, common questions we get for divorced individuals. Do divorce benefits affect the current spouse or other dependents? No. A divorced spouse benefit does not affect any of your benefits or of your current spouse or dependents. You wouldn't even know it happened. Is my ex notified? Well, I guess that's the next question. No. Just like your doctor is under HIPAA, can't share your medical information with somebody else, they can't share your filing status with somebody else. Here's the only exception to that. If you are a divorced individual and you need the information necessary to be able to file a valid claim of a benefit that you're duly entitled to, you can present your marriage license and final divorce decree, and they are bound to be able to give that information so that you can file or see if you're qualified to file. That's it. That's the only information that they can share. All right. Widows and widowers. I'm going to do a quick case study here. And I want you to see this. This is a very simple one. The only thing we're going to do is look at different ways to file, but I want you to see the impact that has. We're going to use this example of a widow benefit to do that. Here it is. This is a 60-year-old lady, a woman who is unmarried or remains unmarried. To qualify, you have to be. You cannot get a widow benefit prior to age 60. You must remain unmarried. If you're widowed or widower, become a widow or widower, and you remarry before your 60th birthday, even if you divorce again, those benefits are gone. No benefits. But if you remain unmarried until your 60th birthday, you can remarry after that and still get these benefits. You must have been married at least 9 months prior to the death of the spouse. Couple of exceptions. Serviceman or woman of the armed services of the United States killed in the line of duty, policeman or fireman or first responder killed in the line of duty. Those are the only exceptions. All right, here's the example. This is I'm just going to show you different filing methods. And I want to show you what the impact of that is. Okay, here's the widow's name is Jane. Her husband, John, never elected, and he dies at age 64. Benefit at his full retirement age would have been $2,150. That was his benefit. Jane was 5 years younger, age 59 when John passed away. She remained unmarried, so she qualifies for the widow benefit after her 60th birthday. Jane's estimated benefit, this is her own benefit, which she does not qualify for yet because she has to wait till 62, is $1,197. Okay, here's what the options are. I call the first one file without thinking. What do I mean by that? Well, most of us walk into Social Security and say, how much can I get? And that's really not considering the options. It's just asking a question, which is, by the way, what Social Security can do. They can answer a question, but they can't give you advice. This is why this is so problematic. So look, she walks into Social Security. She says, "What can I get?" The only benefit at 60 that she's entitled to is the widow benefit, but she's not full retirement age. So if she takes it, it's not 1537, or it's not 2150. It's 1537. So we assume we're going to do simple math here, no cost of living adjustments, just raw numbers. We assume she's going to live for 25 more years to age 85. That's 300 months. She's going to receive that 1537, no cost of living adjustments here. I'm just doing simple math. For the next 25 years, 300 months, she's going to collect $461,100. This is a pretty low benefit. And it's only 25 years, and she's collected near $500,000. It would be way more than that with cost of living adjustments. This is a lot of money. You can't just ignore this. All right, strategy 1. Look, don't take that benefit. Wait until 62. Take your own benefit at 62. Maybe you're going to work 2 more years. Maybe you're making $50,000 a year. Add that $50,000 up. That's $100,000 to the bottom line of your income, and then start taking the benefit. And then at 67, at your full retirement age, that's when the widow benefit, that survivor benefit, has capped out. It's maxed out at full retirement age. Switch then. Look, that's simple paying attention. Not counting the $100,000 from income. That's simple calculation. Gets you almost $80,000 more. Almost 18.5%. Strategy 2, most people say, is even better. Look, Dave, I don't want to work 2 more years. I need to retire now. Okay. Then take that widow benefit. But don't forget, you have another benefit. Now, you can't take it right now. You can't take it. It's not due you until 62. And at 62, it's less than the money that you're taking for the survivor benefit. But if you don't take it, it's still there, and it's still growing. And by the time you reach 70, it's maxed out. And now it's not 1197 anymore. It's 2108. That's more than 1537. All you have to do is make one phone call or one appointment and switch it. If you do that over the next 25 years, your total benefit comes out to $563,904. That's more than $100,000 more than almost 24% more money than the original take it, forget it. You can't ignore this. You got to pay attention to it. Okay. Can you work and still collect? Yeah. But you may not want to. Look, if you work 62, 63, 64, 65, even 66, and you still work, if you make more than $24,320, for every $2 over that, you're going to lose $1 of Social Security benefit. You got to pay attention to that. Let me put that in layman's terms. If you make about $57,000 with a $2,000 a month Social Security benefit, they're going to take the whole benefit away. And they're not going to take it away up front. They don't have employment police to know that you're working. They're going to find out about this when you tell them about it, when you file your taxes. And so if you want to avoid this, pay attention. But look, when you file your taxes, sometime in April, sometime in July, you're going to get a letter that says that $2,000 a month, that $24,000 we paid you, we'd like it all back with interest, please. And if you're now retired and don't have that money to pay them, don't worry. Their collection methods are unbelievably effective. They just stop paying you your benefit until it's all caught up. Now, in the year that you turn full retirement age, you still may have a problem. If you're full retirement age, you turn full retirement age at age 66, and you make more than $59,520, you're still going to lose $1 for every $3 over that. The only way to avoid this is, A, Do not have income that exceeds these if you retire before full retirement age and take your benefit, or wait until you are the year to take your benefit until the January after the year that you turn full retirement age. You could earn a bazillion dollars in the year afterwards, and there's no reduction of your benefits. Now, you are going to have to deal with this other thing called taxes. And look, here's some bad news tonight. Taxes are a rough thing to deal with. Here's the reason. Look, first off, you may not know this. Lots of people have missed this, but you paid tax on Social Security already. When they tax Social Security, when you start taking it, they're double taxing you. Now, they passed that law. Remember, I told you in 1983 they changed the laws? Well, this is the other thing they did. They saw baby boomers coming, and they realized that the size of our generation was going to wreak havoc on the system. And so this is part of the way they dealt with it. One is they raised the full retirement age. This is the other thing they did. And they set up a system where you're taxed depending on what your income is. Now, here's the thing. You already paid tax. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, there's no deduction on your, when you pay into FICO, there's no deduction for it. You pay tax on it. You've already paid tax on this. And every other thing that you pay tax on up front, you don't pay tax again at the end, except for Social Security. So look, if you are wondering how complex this is Form 915. You can get it from irs.gov/forms, download Form 915. This is a 33-page document that explains how to figure out your taxes with Social Security. It comes with a wonderful worksheet. I'm not going to tell you it's simple because it's not, but I'm going to try to explain Social Security and taxation to you tonight because it's critically important that you understand this. If you've written nothing else down tonight, this little chart that you see here contains the information about this two-word phrase called provisional income. That's something you should write down. Provisional income. I'm going to explain what provisional income is. So look, if you're a single person and you earn $25,000 of provisional income, then 50% of your Social Security is fully taxable at the highest marginal tax rate you pay, the end rate, not the beginning rate. If you earn $34,000 of provisional income, 85% of your Social Security is fully taxable at the highest marginal tax rate you pay. If you're a married couple, 32,000 gets you to the 50% level. $44,000 of provisional income means 85% of your Social Security is fully taxable at the highest marginal tax rate you pay. Okay, I can hear you. What the heck is provisional income, Dave? Okay, here it is. Let me break it down for you. Let me tell you what's included in provisional income, and I'll tell you a little more about how it works. So obviously, W-2 income, any earned wages are counted as provisional income. All of it. Any 1099 income. So if you work casual labor, or you do contract work, or you work in the real estate industry, you get a commission. All of that counts as provisional income. Maybe you're an investor and you have a dividend portfolio. Those dividends are treated as long-term capital gains if you've had them for the holding for at least a year. Ordinary income if it's less than that. But look, it doesn't matter one way or the other. It all counts as provisional income. Capital gains counts as provisional income. All of it. Business income. Maybe you own an investment in a small business. Maybe it's a medium-sized business. It doesn't matter. And it's a partnership. And at the end of the year, you get what's called a K1. The K1 tells you what your amount of participation in the profit was. Now, here's the good news. That's treated as capital gains income, but it counts as provisional income. Here's the bad news. You may not have gotten the money. It often happens that the company didn't distribute all that money. They may have distributed none of that money because they're building up for a capital expenditure, or they're expanding the company, or doing whatever. They're reinvesting it, and it's building up your equity, but it's not putting money in your pocket. But you may have to pay tax on it, and it may cause your Social Security to be taxed. Rental incomes. Maybe you're thinking rentals are I'm going to do real estate, and that's the way to get around this. 100% of your rental incomes are going to count as provisional income. Maybe you're like my daughter and son-in-law, who like to overpay Uncle Sam during the year so they can build up and get a big tax refund in the beginning of next year. And the reason for that is it helps them with bigger purchases and things like that. But that tax refund counts as provisional income. Municipal bond income. May not pay tax on it. Many municipal bonds are tax-free income, maybe even tax-free in the state that you're in if you buy a state one. But the income is going to count as provisional income to see if we can qualify you to pay tax on your Social Security. Okay, here are the interesting ones. Maybe you have an IRA, a 401k, a 403b, a 457, a SEP, a SERP, a SLRP. Every one of those accounts are tax-deferred accounts that the government let you put money in and not pay tax on. But when that money comes out, counts 100% as provisional income. Now, some of you are doing the math and thinking, wait a second, are you telling me that the money I put aside, I remember my advisors years ago telling me, hey, look, when I take this money out, you don't pay tax now. And when I take the money out, Dave, I'll be in a lower tax bracket. I'll save money all over. But what if this actually puts you in a situation where you're paying taxes on something that you were never intended to pay taxes on? What if it ruins your retirement? Oh, yeah. Last one. 50%. This is a killer one. 50% of the Social Security check that you and your spouse receive, 50% counts as provisional income. They're actually using part of your Social Security they're trying to see if you make so little that we shouldn't tax you, but then they're counting part of the money that they pay you to see if they can put you over the limit so you pay taxes. Now, look, maybe you're not as upset about this as I am, but I've studied this a lot. Here's the thing. This is a baby boomer tax. What do I mean by that? Well, look, if you see that $44,000 in provisional income? If your grandparents in 1983 had $44,000 of income, they were in the top 3% of income earners in retirement. That was a good regular wage. So how many times has this been adjusted for inflation? This came about in 1983. The answer is 0. It's never been adjusted for inflation. These are the same numbers that they put up. They weren't put up for them. They weren't put up for our parents. They were created for us. And boy, has inflation made them real to us now. This is a big problem, and it is massively changing the way retirement works. Look, I get asked all the time, how do I increase Social Security? How do I increase the money that I get guaranteed on a monthly basis? There are 2 ways that you can do this. Look, really important. First, most important, file your Social Security carefully. a careful filing strategy to get the maximum amount that you're owed. This is your money. You put it in, you've earned it. You shouldn't be callous about it. You shouldn't be frivolous about it. You should not be cavalier about it. You should try to get every dime you can. And then lots of people have done these private supplements, insurance or annuities that guarantee private income for life. It's the only two ways to do this. And they're worth paying attention to. All right, I'm going to do one last case study and then we're finishing up here. Bear with me. I might be a minute over, but I'm close. Okay. Couple age 64 and 62. This is a typical client. Just over 34,000 in combined Social Security income before age 62. They're starting retirement with right about $752,000 in 401ks and IRAs in assets. They want to retire at 62. They've got a lot of money. They want to do that. We're going to say they have a 6% return on their annual return, 3% inflation rate. They need $70,000 in inflation adjusted after-tax income, and they're going to live to 86 to 89, respectively. All right, here's what's at risk. If they file at 62, they're walking away from $186,496 in Social Security money, and they need every single dime of that. Let me show you what I mean. This is the cash flow. If they file at 62, this is what their retirement looks like. That bar, that black bar that you see at the top, that's the income need, the $70,000 in adjusted income. The blue bars, that's Social Security. The orange bars are their $752,000. And at the end of the orange bars, that white gap is just that. It's an income gap. They run out of money. This couple starts retirement with $752,000, a reasonable ask, and in 2/3 of the way through retirement, you remember what I said, 46.1% of Americans running out of money when they don't even have enough to fund their own funeral? This couple started with $750,000. That's exactly where they're at. They're living on Social Security and Social Security alone. And they got 14 more years to do that. Now, I'm going to show you what we've done to fix this. I'm going to point out there's a lot of things that we could have done. We have not changed anything other than the filing of their Social Security. We haven't adjusted their investments. We haven't protected anything. We haven't done anything else. All we're doing here is paying attention to taxes and Social Security. Let me show you what the difference is. You tell me, which retirement would you rather have? That one or that one? Here's the only difference. We're not starting Social Security before we've paid down a significant amount of those assets. We're funding the first years of retirement with their 401ks and their IRAs. Why are we doing that? That orange money, they have never paid tax on. There is no way not to pay tax on it. When they take it out, they got to pay tax. But they've paid tax on the blue money already. There is no reason to pay tax twice on it unless they're just not paying attention. By doing this, look at the difference here. This is look, I don't mean to say this isn't complicated, but this is critically important to understand. I get upset because most advisors don't pay any attention to this. Oh, just file Social Security. It doesn't matter. Whenever, you're good. File whenever you want to. Oh, you want the extra income. You want to take it early. No problem. This couple had $750,000 and they wound up broke because they did not pay attention. There's the federal tax comparison. It's a huge amount different. $35,000 less in federal taxes. By the way, it's over $100,000 if they didn't run out of money. More than $186,000 in additional Social Security by filing correctly. 14 more years of additional portfolio. It gets them to the end of their retirement and a ton less in taxes. Look, your statement, if you look at your Social Security statement, it will not have a suggested COLA for next year. We don't know what next year's COLA is until October, and we'll never know the next year and the next year. But if you want any kind of idea of how to plan your retirement, you've got to suggest, here's what a reasonable number is, and here's what this looks like, and can we add it in? It also, your statement assumes that you're going to retire at 62 or at 70 or whatever your full retirement age is. It doesn't give you other options. And it looks, I think I told you, I've been married 47 years. My wife and I, look, we have one pile of money. We don't separate ourselves. We've lived our lives together. But Social Security looks at her and me like we don't know each other. And it tells her what hers is, and it tells me what mine is, but it won't coordinate them for us. And that's absolutely necessary if you're a married couple. And of course, it won't offer advice. Look, AARP says whether you're close to retirement or you're turning 50, you should check your Social Security records each year to make sure it doesn't contain errors. And I'll tell you, some of those errors have a statute of limitation on how long you can actually fix them. Last comment about private income supplements. Look, I know the same way that Social Security gets bashed, these get bashed, and it concerns me that we're led down. Just sometimes it helps to think. You've got to ask why are these Wall Street firms? Why are they the ones that are bashing these things? Why are they so obsessed with people wanting guarantees? Why do they fund expensive, relentless advertising campaigns against guaranteed issue products? Now, mind you, most of the money that funds these accounts comes out of their accounts. And they live to charge you fees. But I want you to understand risk. The only way to make more money in the stock market long term is to take more risk. The only way to survive retirement is to take less. How do you figure that out? These products that offer guarantees, this is something that Wall Street cannot give you. They will not give you. These products make a huge difference in people's lives. And you just have to be careful about who you're listening to and why they're telling you certain things. All right, look, every time we do one of these, we're going to offer you, we always do this, we offer you a personal Social Security analysis. I'm going to tell you a little about what it includes, and then I'll tell you a little more about why we do this in a minute. So look, it'll certainly cover break-even concepts. That's a very basic thing. I don't know that it's that important. There's maybe 11 things that we look at, and it's maybe 10 on there, but it's covered. They're super easy to understand and implement. It's a point and click. It's like, here's how I do this. Here's what I do to accomplish the goal that I'm trying to do. And it'll show you alternatives and shortfalls. What if I don't want to do it that way. What if I did it this way? We can show you that. What the heck do I do if I don't have enough? What are my options? And then it'll look at income, tax flow, tax analysis. How can I save money in taxes? How can I not run out of money? How can I make sure that I have enough income in retirement? And then, is my income plan viability? Is it okay? Am I assuming too much income from the assets that I have? Am I not assuming enough? Can I produce more? And then, should I be doing a Roth conversion? If so, how much do I save? And how much should I be doing? And when should I be doing it? These are questions. I'm just shocked at how many times people do not have this basic information. And then, how do you coordinate your benefits? Look, if you're looking at a retirement plan, Social Security planning is retirement planning. And if you're not coordinating Social Security and non-qualified assets, qualified assets, IRAs, 401ks, pension plans, life insurance, TSP, if you're not looking at the whole bunch, you're not really doing a plan. Okay. Look, first step in any of this is you've got to have your statement. So if you haven't done this already, go to www.ssa.gov. It'll take you about 5 minutes. If you haven't set up an account, it'll take you about 5 minutes to set it up. It'll take you a minute to print off your statement. And it's the basic thing that you need for any kind of Social Security planning. And then I'm going to give you 3 different options for analysis tonight. I'll list them out, and then I'll show you how we'll talk about how to join up and get one of them in just a minute. Okay, first one is what I just talked about. It's a complete analysis. It's the filing strategy. It's the tax strategy overview. It's retirement assessments. It's Social Security coordination. It's Roth assessment. It's everything that you need focused on taxes and retirement asset coordination. We're going to give you a connection here in a minute. We'll give you a link in the chat, and then we're going to give you a QR code that you can go to otherwise. That is option 1. If you're interested in that, but hey, you heard me mention these programs, these supplemental programs, these augmentations of your Social Security. If you're thinking, hey, I have money in 401ks, I have money in IRAs, I have money that I might like to convert to income that's guaranteed in retirement. And I'd sort of like to talk to Dave about this. I spend all of my time working with people who are interested in that proposition. It includes the full strategy, the filing strategy, the tax overview, the retirement overview, the coordination of Social Security, the Roth, and everything that's involved in the entire analysis. But if you're also interested in talking to me about possibly one of those supplements, then that's option 2. That's meet with me. You'll meet with Tony to begin with, that you saw earlier, who I'm going to bring on in a minute to help me with the Q&A because my voice is running out, and then that's it. Now, if you have limited funds, maybe look, if you don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars in 401ks, if you don't have a couple $100,000 at least, you don't have a tax problem. If your main income in retirement is Social Security by itself will not be taxed. You don't need that. You just need a filing strategy. And for that, we have prepared this workbook. I've authored this workbook. We've gotten rave reviews about it. We've given them out. I don't know. It's tens and tens. It might be 100,000 at this point. It's been recently updated for this year. That's option 3. All you have to do is sign up for the workbook, and we'll get that workbook out to you absolutely free of charge, complimentary. Every single one of these is complimentary. There's no cost or obligation. These are options to sit down and get these analyses because they're valuable. Now, I'm going to ask our team to put this up here, but let me tell you why we do this. Because there's a lot of free here, Dave. How in the world do you do this? Well, look, maybe I can explain it this way. I love Costco. Now, I realize we're talking to people all over the country. Some of you don't have Costco. Some of you have BJ's Wholesale or Sam's Club or some other thing. We have Costco. And I beg my wife to go to Costco on Saturday mornings. She hates it. It's a zoo. If you've ever been to one of these places, it's a zoo. And it's not an easy thing to traverse the aisles and get through and up and down when there's a million people in there. But I love Saturday mornings because when you go to Saturday mornings, they have the best stuff. They have the people at the ends of the aisles cooking up stuff to try. And they have all these interesting things that I would never try if I weren't at Costco on a Saturday morning. But I get to try them. And my wife and I have this down to a science. She doesn't even look at the clerk. She looks at me. And as they pass me something, either in one of those paper plates or cups, and I try it, she looks. And if I get a smile on my face, she just knows, just give me one. And if I nudge her, okay, we'll take 2. That's how it works. Because if I try something and I like it, I usually want more. That's what this is about. We know the quality of the work that we do, the depth of understanding we have for retirement planning and Social Security planning, the, the, the comprehensive nature of what we go through is so stellar that we think we're going to blow you away. We think we're going to get you to say, wow. That's how confident we are. And because of that, there's a really good chance that you're going to go, well, maybe we should do something together. What about this? Could we work together here? That's how we've built our business. I'm telling you that up front. Do you remember that guy back in the 80s that did that commercial that used to be on the paper chase? You know, said, we get business the old-fashioned way. We earn it. I want a chance to earn your business. I know if you see the quality of the work we do, there's a good chance you might go, wow. Wow. They're world-class. That's what it's about. And we're willing to risk our time and our efforts and our expertise to show you that. Okay. Let me do this. I am going to bring Tony back in, and we're going to start the Q&A.
Okay.
Tony, little feedback on your mic, but we'll be okay.
Okay.
Tony, I am going to ask our tech team to start bringing them up. I'm a little dry. I'm going to take a drink, so I'm going to read the questions if it's okay. Tony, let me introduce Tony to you. Tony Pegasic is one of my favorite people in the world. Tony works with me exclusively. Look, if you decide that you want option 2 and you want to meet with me, Tony's going to talk to you first. He'll gather some information so that when we sit down, we can have a meaningful conversation. Tony is an IAR just like I am. He is a Series 65. He is a fiduciary advisor. He is a chartered retirement planning counselor. That's a designation from the College of Financial Planning. And he carries that NSSA for Social Security, just like I do as well. But here, let me tell you Tony's background for a second. Tony was 30 years as a math teacher in high school. I mean, he was in high school. He taught high school. And that qualifies him for saint and for the most patient man I've ever met in my life. He is incredibly patient. But look, I love Tony not because of his incredible depth of knowledge and his expertise, but because Tony gets it. Clients come first. He is all about serving clients. And that's how we've built our firm. So I hope you get a chance to say hello to him and meet him. He is a wonderful fellow. But if our tech team can throw up the first question, we will start right now.
Okay, sounds good.
Here we go. This is from Franklin. If I'm on Social Security and decide to work, is there a limit to how money I can earn without a penalty?
That's right, Franklin. That is something that Dave did talk about a little bit in terms of the earnings limit. So let's start with this. It depends on your age. So if you are full retirement age right now, Franklin, on Social Security, there is no limit whatsoever. You can make as much as somebody's going to pay you, and then you're fine. But if you are below full retirement age, whether it's 66, 67, somewhere in between there, then there's going to be a limit of just over $22,000 that you can make. And again, if every $1 over that, every $2 over that, they're going to withhold $1 in Social Security benefits from you while you're earning that. So something to factor in. Key being full retirement age, you're in the clear.
Good question.
Thank you, Franklin.
All right. This is from Particle in the Wave. How is this any different than theft? Is there anything you can do to stop this?
That must have been related to something you were talking about, Dave.
Probably taxes. Yeah.
Probably taxes, yes.
Yeah. It's only theft if it's illegal, and the government has the ability to do it. So the answer is no, it's not illegal. It's horrible. It's immoral, but it's not illegal.
and we're not built to fight City Hall either. So I don't. For your second question, good luck. We haven't found a way to stop it.
All right. Lucy Hahn, do you have Social Security experience with having a disabled adult child?
Well, there, there are certain rules around that, and depending on the disability and when they have it, if it's a disability that was established before age 22, consider them a child then, and then they've had it since then. There are rules around that, so we've looked at that a little bit. Even myself personally have had to look at that a little bit. So, without being too specific, Lucy, there's some familiarity with that.
All right, this is from Jane. Where does debt come into this?
Oh, yeah. Well, debt comes into it for everybody. That's number one. You gotta factor that into your planning. That's pretty open ended here, Jane. The whole idea with debt, you hear about good debt, bad debt, and whatever else. We talk about debt on owing on a house. Some people have 3% interest rates on their house, and there's a question about paying it off. Some people, have 5%, 7%. That's got to be looked at individually, and depends what funds you have to work with, whether or not it's worth paying that off right up front or factor that into your budget. That's all part of the planning that we look at. It's really big picture stuff, and we look at all the details in that picture. Part of what we do.
All right. Andrea says, my husband and I each will have Social Security benefits. Husband will have a pension, plus we have a 401ks. I understood you to say, once retired, delay Social Security and live on our savings, keeping the tax reasonable.
Yeah, Andrea, that was a part of that conversation Dave was going through. For some people, that does work out real well. The delaying and living on the savings essentially allows you to lower some of the 401k amount because you're drawing from that early on, so that it's not taxed as much later. And for people that can then live on more of their Social Security later, you're potentially paying less taxes because of that threshold that Dave that went through there, that range from 32 to 44,000. So,
Andrew, can I just add in? Don't do that without a plan. You don't want to just say, "Oh, it's better to live on Social Security first, or live on assets first, and then do." You got to have a plan. You want the optimized version of that, and you don't know where that is without doing a plan.
Yeah, great point, Dave. And that's true of so much of what we say. There's not a lot of hard and fast rules that you absolutely every single person should be doing this or that. This is why we do what we do. Is that because every situation is different? Everyone has different funds that they're working with in retirement, different amounts, different budgets, social securities, and all that. All of that needs to be looked at in order to formulate a plan. So it's just not that simple to hear from somebody that this is a good idea and then copy that. It's really a dangerous route to go. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you, Franklin.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Looks like we might be at the end of the questions tonight.
Are we? Okay.
Yeah. I think okay. All right. Well, I'll give you 30 seconds if you've got a final question. Otherwise, we are going to bid you adieu. Here we got. Okay. Lucy Hahn, what are your fees? I apologize if you mentioned already. I did miss a bit in the middle. Yeah, so look, no fees for the analysis whatsoever. This is all complimentary. I've tried to say that a couple times, but I want to make sure you understand that. No fees. If we're a registered investment advisory firm, if you choose to have assets managed by us, we're less than 1% for most clients. If you are, that's really the only fee I can talk about. It's the only fee that we have. So that's it. But I will. I would encourage you, talk to us about the quality of the plan. We'd love to show you what the quality of the plan is. But there you go. Thanks. Good, great question. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy.
All right. All right, guys. Thank you so much for staying with us tonight, for getting through the questions with us. I will bid you good night, good planning, and may you all have a great retirement. See you later. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Goodbye.